Grab your virtual binoculars and join us on an adventure as we uncover safari trips that took a wild turn. It's a wild adventure you won't want to miss. The photographer crouches low, positioning their camera to capture a group of zebras grazing in the distance. Their keen eyes scan the surroundings, knowing that they might get a chance for a unique shot. A lioness, keen on hunting, begins her silent approach towards the photographer. The photographer maintains their composure despite the adrenaline coursing through their veins. They continue to snap shots of the approaching lioness, capturing the wild grace in her movements. Amidst the savanna's silence, an incredible connection forms between the lioness and the photographer. The lioness finally decides to retreat and hunt elsewhere. The photographer lets out a relieved breath and watches as the lioness disappears into the grass, her presence just a memory. The tourists fell silent, their eyes eagerly trained on the guide's binoculars. Suddenly, the guide's hand pointed to the right. A collective gasp swept through the tourists as they laid eyes on the colossal African elephant with its enormous curving tusks emerging from the concealing thicket. The elephant moved with a graceful and deliberate stride, its colossal ears swaying gently in the breeze. The elephant continued its unhurried approach, seemingly unperturbed by the presence of the fascinated onlookers. It raised its trunk, gently sniffing the air before swaying it from side to side as if offering a warm welcome. As Mfalme drew closer, seemingly in tune with the sentiment, the gentle giant took a step back and elegantly retreated into the foliage, disappearing from view. The tourists watched in silent reverence. The photographer, unaware of the gravity of this moment, inches closer to the lion. Each step is calculated and designed to not arouse sudden reactions. He remains still, capturing the attention of the magnificent creature while his heart races. Stay calm, this is just a display of dominance. The lion maintains its gaze, curiously observing the man with the camera. A few more shots are taken, portraying the lion's raw power and sheer beauty. The photographer's hands tremble, his pulse racing, well aware of the rarity and peril of this encounter. The tourists sit in anticipation. One is a young wildlife enthusiast who can barely contain her excitement. Opposite her is a nervous tourist, his wide eyes reflecting a mix of fear and wonder. Beside the enthusiast, a fearless man prepares his camera for what promises to be an incredible encounter. The male lion, a symbol of raw power and majesty, slowly approaches their safari car. His movements are a testament to the grace and strength of the apex predator. As the tourists observe in awe, their guide reaffirms the importance of stillness and quietude. The tourists, overwhelmed by the moment, can't help but express amazement. Another feels the weight of the lion's stare bearing down, sending shivers down their spine. The guide reassures them that the lion's interest is more out of curiosity than any perceived threat. Our journey begins at the grand entrance of the Lion and Safari Park, where travelers from all over the world gather to experience Africa's rich and varied wildlife. A giraffe leaned his long neck closer to the visitor, curiosity gleaming in his dark, expressive eyes. The park ranger who supervised the interaction approached. These captivating creatures are known for forming unexpected connections with those who come to admire them. As the encounter concludes, the giraffe gracefully withdraws, leaving the visitors with cherished memories of its warm and welcoming presence. As they ventured deeper into the wilderness, the echoing grunts of two rhinoceroses sent shivers down their spines. The group, gripped by fear, sensed danger lurking nearby. The safari vehicle roared to life, its tires churning up the crimson savanna dirt as adrenaline surged through the passenger's veins. In an effort to put some distance between his passengers and the charging rhinoceros, they scramble. However, it was challenging to keep control due to the rugged terrain and overwhelming panic. The car leaned precariously over a little ridge before flipping over with a terrifying shake. However, the other group managed to escape from the rhinos just in time. They took refuge behind a cluster of boulders, desperately praying that the rhinos would lose interest. The safari jeep bounced along the rugged terrain, making the tourists regret their choice of guide. Suddenly, an enormous elephant appeared in their path, lumbering across the road. Excitement filled the guide's voice as he pointed to the elephant. Without hesitation, he floored the gas pedal, sending the jeep racing toward the elephant. Panic swept through the tourists, but the guide was completely oblivious, swerving the jeep dangerously close to the startled elephant. Ellie trumpeted in surprise and began to charge away. They hung on for dear life as they trailed Ellie, who was now running with all her might. The guide was clearly enjoying himself. "We're gaining on her, mates." The elephant approaches the group, its trunk curiously extended towards the safari tracker. It sniffs the air and the tracker, who maintains his calm composure, making no sudden moves. The tourists, understandably, were starting to get nervous. The tourists gripped their cameras tightly, their anxiety growing, but the safari tracker keeps its focus on the elephant. The safari tracker had to trust his years of experience and instincts. Panicking would only have made matters worse. After what feels like an eternity, the elephant finally loses interest and slowly ambles away, disappearing into the grass. Their rugged jeep navigated the dirt road, and suddenly their eyes locked onto a group of majestic elephants in the distance with a giant elephant among them. They brought the vehicle to a halt for precaution. As he watched in awe, the giant elephant lifted its head, seemingly sensing his presence. It took a few cautious steps in his direction, causing both of them to hold their breath. However, without any warning, the elephant's demeanor abruptly shifted to aggression, and it charged towards the vehicle while trumpeting loudly. The jeep was severely damaged, and both of them were jostled around inside, narrowly escaping serious injury. Meanwhile, the giant elephant stood nearby, having successfully defended its territory. They eagerly turned their attention to a magnificent clearing where a huge elephant emerged from the dense underbrush. The massive creature towered over the vehicle, and its presence was awe-inspiring. With gentle grace, the elephant approached the tour group, evoking a sense of wonder and admiration.
Be quiet!
As if joining the tour, the elephant moved closer and leaned its colossal frame against the tourist vehicle. Laughter and astonishment filled the air as the vehicle rocked gently under the elephant's gentle pressure. Satisfied with its interaction, the elephant gracefully moved away from the vehicle, revealing its immense size. It paused, almost as if bidding farewell, before slowly disappearing into the lush jungle. On a blistering day in the African savannah, a brave but naive tourist in her late 20s set foot in a safari park, eager to capture the wildlife on her smartphone. She was blissfully unaware of the perils that awaited her. The tourist moved a few cautious steps closer, bringing her within a few yards of the lioness. The lioness seemed disinterested, but the tourist couldn't resist getting closer. Taking pictures with her smartphone, the tourist grew bolder, inching even closer. Suddenly, she extended her hand, attempting to pet the lioness. The lioness reacted with a low growl, her eyes now filled with tension. The tourist tumbled backward, and the guide rushed forward to pull her to safety. The lioness remained on high alert, growling and baring her teeth, protecting her cubs. As the sun began its ascent, casting a golden glow over the surroundings, they reached a serene clearing by a meandering river. Here, a majestic African elephant stood, her massive ears flapping gently in the breeze. The guide, unflinching, maintained his calm composure and continued to hold out his hand. The elephant charged, closing the gap with alarming speed. Just as she was on the verge of reaching him, the guide issued a command. Miraculously, the elephant skidded to a halt mere inches away from the guide. An intense connection between man and elephant was palpable as they locked eyes. The tension dissipated. A group of tourists excitedly chatter as they embark on a thrilling safari adventure through lush wilderness. Their guide sits behind the wheel, steering the open-topped Jeep. Suddenly, an elephant charges, trumpeting loudly, and the Jeep's engine roars to life. The Jeep accelerates, but the elephant is faster. It charges relentlessly, and its massive trunk collides with the Jeep's rear end, flipping it onto its side.
Get out, get out, get out! Get on the car, get on the car, get on the car, get on the car, get on the car.
Get on the car right now.
The tourists scream as the Jeep crashes and their belongings fly around. They quickly unbuckle their seatbelts and help the passengers escape through the top of the overturned vehicle. Everyone is shaken, but miraculously unharmed. There are two cheetahs who appear with graceful stealth, their spotted coats blending into the surrounding landscape. Their arrival leaves the tourists in awe. The cheetahs, displaying cautious curiosity, begin to approach the safari car. The tourists fall into a hushed silence, captivated by the extraordinary encounter. The cheetahs sit regally atop the car, taking in the awe-inspiring views and the curious tourists below. Surprisingly relaxed, it appears to have decided to become part of the adventure. On the ground, tourists eagerly snapped photos, capturing the unique encounter. The cheetah occasionally glanced down at the tourists, seemingly posing for pictures. The roof of this safari car became the most sought-after spot for the ultimate cheetah selfie. As the safari continued, the cheetahs maintained their regal perch on the car, making the experience even more memorable for the tourists. They remained close, playfully pouncing on the grass and racing alongside the vehicle. The tourists couldn't contain their excitement. The sight is breathtaking. The tourists can't believe their luck. Among the group of elephants, one begins to display signs of agitation. It flaps its ears and emits loud, trumpet-like calls, causing anxiety to ripple through the tourists.
Local demonstration. We're going to try and get distance here.
Fear takes hold of the group as the elephant charges towards their jeep. The tourists ponder the possibility of driving away from the situation, but their experienced guide quickly dispels the idea. They're aware of the elephant's protective instincts and know that abrupt movements could escalate the situation. The guide maintains a calm demeanor as he is driving in reverse.
Cars coming from all over the place, so you're not going to be jerking and racing all over the place.
It's a moment that leaves the tourists in awe. The guide continues to back away, maintaining eye contact with the elephant, ensuring it understands that they mean no harm. The elephant eventually rejoins the herd, leaving the tourists deeply impressed by the guide's expertise and the powerful connection between humans and nature. A safari jeep filled with excited tourists rumbles along a dusty trail in the Crimean wilderness. The landscape is breathtaking, with wild animals grazing in the distance. The lion finally reaches the jeep and gracefully climbs onto the hood. The tourists panic, but the man extends his hand towards the lion, his eyes never leaving the majestic creature. The lion sniffs the man's hand and then nuzzles it gently.
Скажи всем здравствуйте. Скажи, кто хотел снять поближе?
The man and the lion share a profound moment. The bond between them is palpable. The other tourists begin to take photos of this remarkable interaction. The man gently pets the lion's mane, and it leans into his touch, purring like a massive house cat. Keep your eyes open, everyone. We might be lucky enough to encounter some lions. The tourists eagerly scan the horizon when suddenly a sight beyond their wildest expectations unfolds. Emerging from the tall grass is a lioness. She approaches the jeep with an air of curiosity. The lioness gazes at the tourists, her eyes filled with inquisitiveness. She then hops onto the roof of the jeep and incredibly climbs inside, landing in the back seat. The lioness takes a few sniffs, her tail wagging gently, appearing remarkably comfortable with her bewildered fellow travelers. With nervous glances exchanged, the tourists find themselves captivated by this once-in-a-lifetime experience. The safari proceeds, now with an unexpected passenger. The lioness sits contentedly, occasionally nuzzling her new friend. The driver halts the jeep when he spots a colossal giant elephant standing firmly in the middle of the dirt road. The majestic creature is agitated, flapping its ears and trumpeting loudly while approaching the car where the tourist is. The elephant's agitation grows and dust swirls around it. It takes a few steps forward, positioning itself squarely in front of the jeep, displaying fierce territorial instincts. Just as the elephant is about to reach the jeep, an experienced guide who had been observing from a distance steps forward. She raises her arm and issues a stern command. As the adventurers venture deep into the jungle, The symphony of exotic birds and wildlife surrounds them. Their senses are heightened and their excitement is palpable. The adventurers inch closer to the source of the sound, their breath held in anticipation. There, they are met with an astonishing sight. A majestic Bengal tiger, its coat of orange and black a shimmering masterpiece of nature. They regain their composure, collectively holding their breath as they continue to witness the magnificent tiger. The tiger, after what feels like an eternity, loses interest in the group and disappears silently into the jungle. Their journey takes an unexpected turn as they reach a unique vantage point. The tourists are captivated by the scene. Their excitement is palpable, yet they maintain a respectful distance. The tourists gasp as they witness the adorable lion cubs frolicking in the grass. However, a sudden hush falls over the group. The adult lions below raise their heads, locking eyes with the observers above. Their tour guide, with years of experience under his belt, quickly senses the shift in the situation. The guide issues a reminder, emphasizing the need for calm and caution, as any sudden movement could trigger the lions below. Fear and amazement intermingle on the faces of the tourists, who have never been so close to such majestic and potentially dangerous creatures. Two dedicated forest ranger officers walk cautiously along a narrow forest trail, clutching their radios and binoculars. They are on their regular patrol, ensuring the safety of the park's rich biodiversity. In the distance, they spot a herd of wild elephants peacefully grazing. As the officers continue to observe the elephants, a wise old elephant in the herd senses their presence. The herd forms a protective circle around the humans. The herd, under the wise old elephant's watchful eye, gradually relaxes and continues to graze. The officers watch in awe, understanding the deep bond between these magnificent creatures and the forest they call home. A dusty safari road winds through a lush African savanna. A rugged car, driven by a seasoned wildlife photographer, cautiously navigates the terrain. On the road ahead, an enormous elephant stands defiantly, its massive frame blocking the car's path. The elephant lets out a thunderous trumpet, and with a determined look, it uses all its colossal might to flip the car. The vehicle teeters dangerously, sending the driver gripping the steering wheel in panic. The elephant shows no signs of giving up. Its frustration is evident. The driver realizes they need to think fast. The sheer force and power of that elephant is mind-boggling. I mean, just take a moment to let that sink in. This is the kind of insane, jaw-dropping adventure that only happens in real life, and luckily, someone caught it on camera. In South Africa, it is apparently normal for lions to casually be a part of everyday traffic. Even lions respect traffic rules here, as they pause at zebra crossings and patiently wait for their turn to cross. The lion crosses the road, and drivers come to a halt to allow it to pass. The lion continues walking, completely unfazed by the surrounding people, while others are amazed and keep taking pictures of the king of the jungle. A group of tourists stands at the park entrance, anticipation written on their faces as they prepare to embark on this unique adventure. Under the watchful eye of their guide, Ramesh, a diverse group of tourists prepares to follow a majestic Bengal tiger on an exceptional walk through his realm. Silence, patience, and the utmost respect for these awe-inspiring creatures are paramount. The journey continues in respectful silence, each step filled with anticipation. They understand that they are entering the domain of the world's most magnificent big cat, the Bengal tiger. A group of excited tourists, led by their safari guide, sit inside an open safari car surrounded by the lush jungle. They eagerly watch the wildlife as the guide narrates.
It's going to bite it out. Oh my god, it's swimming the whole car.
The tourists snap photos, marveling at the tiger as it prowls through the underbrush. Suddenly, the tiger's attention locks onto something. It sniffs the air, and then with a swift movement, darts toward the safari car. The tiger is determined. It puts its powerful paws against the back of the car and starts pulling with all its might. It puts its powerful paws against the back of the car and starts pulling with all its might, but the guide is able to manage it and calm the passengers. The tourists breathe a sigh of relief, still shaken by the unexpected encounter. The photographer and the guide follow a set of enormous footprints along a riverbed. Suddenly, they hear a rumble in the distance like thunder. As they reach the riverbank, they finally see the source of the rumbling. A massive, majestic elephant quietly grazing on leaves. It's the elephant, an awe-inspiring sight. Suddenly, the elephant raises its head and looks at them with piercing eyes. It trumpets loudly, making the ground shake. They scramble up the tree just as the elephant reaches the clearing, its trunk swaying angrily. It circles the tree, frustrated. The elephant eventually loses interest and moves away. The elephant disappears into the depths of the jungle. The photographer, the guide, and the ranger climb down from the tree. The sun rises over a bustling city street, and cars fill the lanes with commuters trying to get to work. The traffic is crawling at a snail's pace due to a sudden roadblock. Horns honk impatiently. The camera pans to reveal 3 magnificent lions sprawled out in the middle of the road, oblivious to the chaos they've caused. Commuters stare in disbelief and confusion. People inside the cars remain calm and stay inside their vehicles while taking photos of the 3 lions having their time in the street.